Hey team, we have an absolute treat for you here today. We have the Leica Fortis 6. The scope is in 2 to 12 magnification and a by 50 objective lens. It has an illuminated reticule and low profile dialable turrets. To start with, let's ask ourselves, who is this scope suitable for? Straight away, if you're going to outlay money for a premium scope, you're definitely not going to take it bush hunting, okay? Even though this goes down to ×2 magnification, which is suitable for bush hunting, you're definitely not going to want to take a premium scope like this into the bush. Bush hunters, we're going to be a little bit harder on our gear, and this is a precision scope, so we're really not going to be, we're going to be wasting its capability. This scope fits into a bracket, which there's not a lot of scopes with exactly these kind of features, so it is a very unique scope. Who I would say the scope would fit perfectly is normal hunting ranges to medium range shooters. So straight away you're thinking Southern Alps, long range deer and long range tahr, that kind of thing. Normal hunting ranges out to 6, maybe 800 meters. There's a couple of reasons why this scope really fits nicely into that bracket. Firstly, you have a ×50 objective lens and a maximum magnification of 12. So coupled with the quality Leica glass, you get really amazing light gathering capability and field of view. Whilst on the range, I had 7 range conducting officers from the Bay of Plenty New Zealand Deerstalkers Association look through the scope and graded out of 10 just for the clarity of the glass. And the average score was 9, the highest was 9.5, and the lowest was 8.5. With the clarity of the glass, it's important to get other people to look through the scope to get an objective view of how good the glass is. So you can see there from those experienced range conducting officers, they scored the scope very highly for the clarity of the glass. So let's go to the turret system. This turret on the left is not parallax, it is the illuminated reticule used for turning that on and off. This is a fixed parallax scope. The elevation drum and the windage drum, as you would normally expect. And one thing I'll say now is the instructions were not very clear from the Leica instructions. I had to go online and sift through quite a few videos before I could find how to properly zero the scope. So what I'm going to show you now is how to use these turrets to zero the scope.
So once we had worked out exactly the technique, the system it uses is actually very, very effective. So you simply undo those locking screws on the elevation knob there, and you remove this dial, which allows you the free range or the full range of motion on the turret. So when you go to 0, you simply place the knob back on there and screw it back in. You 0 it, and then you place the dial back on 0. You see the windage adjustment here is very simple, very well made. There's a fine screw just there. Loosen the screw, and what that allows you to do is to turn the dial itself. Okay, and then you just place that back on your 0, and that is complete. Simple, straightforward.
Two more features about the turrets which really help the hunter. Okay, the first one is their low profile. If you've seen the big tactical style turrets, they're very large, often quite high. Not a drama if you're used to carrying them, but it's just a small point. Smaller, slimmer profile turrets are much easier to carry around, especially if you're in the rough stuff. The other thing is, this elevation turret works off a single turn. You cannot turn it multiple times around. I believe it has 90 mil radians in a single turn, and that's where it will stop. The reason why this simplifies things for those medium range shots is that often with those other turrets, you can actually have turned the turret either too far or it's not on the right 0. This being a single turn, you know exactly when you're on 0 because you have turned it right to the 0 stop. The other feature that helps it not get knocked around is the locking ring here. So while it's in carriage, you can lock it so the turret can't be moved. The other good feature, apart from the clarity of the glass when you look through the scope, is the crosshairs are very, very fine. Now I'm a fan of fine crosshairs, but when you get low light conditions, often it's quite hard to make out the crosshair definitely. So that's where the illumination comes into it. As soon as you get into that low light, you just turn it up a couple of notches so you can define that crosshair. Any kind of precision shooting that you do, a fine crosshair is far superior to a broad crosshair. One final feature I will add before we do the summary is the front of the scope here is threaded for a front lens cap or a lens cover. There's a couple of other scopes that have that, but often you'll find a scope that you have to use the rubber suction style ones, which I'm not a great fan of. So being able to screw on a high quality front lens cap is a really big bonus, especially if you're hunting in adverse conditions. Okay, the back one, you take off this rubber ring here and it replaces that. In summary team, Leica glass, not in doubt, never has been in doubt. It is quality. You are paying a premium price. However, some really good features on the scope. Low profile turrets, elevation turret works off a single turn, illuminated reticle, the reticle is very fine. Okay, the magnification is 2 to 12, but it has a very large objective lens, so the light gathering is increased and you have a large field of view. I think if you really want to get to grips with the Fortis 6, you're really going to have a look down it, go to your nearest retailer and see if you can look through and just check that quality of the glass, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The price, obviously premium, that is up to you, the buyer, if you have the cash to spare to buy a premium scope. And it fits the bill for the person that I'm talking about here, short to medium range, perhaps Southern Alps. You know, you could take your shots anywhere from 50 out to 600 to 800 meters, then this is absolutely the scope for you. Holdover is my preferred method for shooting out to 500 and 600 meters, as I've said before. There's only 2 scopes I've come across that would make me go to a dial scope. This is one of them.